Oh, good morning. And to those people who are going to work and to insomniacs who probably are awake at this hour and would like to listen to a bit of nonsense, why not? Join us on Break an Egg, Mirador Television, and a very Merry Christmas to you. We're a bit early, I suppose, but everybody is early with it this year. And we say that every year, don't we? This morning, if you're going out, if you're travelling to London, so far, the trains are on time. I'm broadcasting from my usual favourite spot, the Runaway Cafe Bistro on Lewis Station. Pavel is down here making early morning coffee. It's superb coffee. Come on down and get some. He'll charge you for it, but not as much as the high street lot. It's good value for money. But anyway, the trains are on time so far, despite the fact it's very blowy conditions, but also start to wrap up. We're going to be hit by an icy blast, and I suppose that the old adage, we have a good summer, and therefore we're going to have a lousy winter, is going to come true this year. It's been a bit blustery and unkind, the weather, the last few days, and unfortunately it really howled last night when Lewis was holding its late night shopping event. Didn't make much fun for anybody, and that is unfortunate because it can sometimes be a very jolly occasion, and it's when people bump into people. The banks and so on don't help on that anymore. Talk to a computer. It's the dear old computer. Computers don't make mistakes, do they? Oh yes, they do. And then the trouble is that the computer will not apologize, and it takes months to get hold of a human being to find out that you were right, and they should actually offer you an apology, which they will do very reluctantly. Anyway, let's not get onto that too soon. But one of the things about computers is, of course, if you use the word in the very broadest sense, and I'm going to have a cup of coffee, and I think I see what my friend and colleague John Hurdley means about you not seeing the top of my face. It's in shadow. I do think it's a reflection of the spectacles. I'm going to have to do something about that. But then, who wants to see me at this hour of the morning? Perhaps the voice will do. But broadly, if we're talking about computers, of course, our telephone system. Phones are key. And yesterday, O2 particularly, but I think that the entire country had problems because both 4G and 3G went out of action. And that means that you could only communicate if your iPhone was somewhere near to a friendly pickup point, and you could get a contact, a transmission from something like iCloud or whatever. Or closer to home with your own router. The national service, on which we depend a great deal, because if we want to go out into the middle of a field and broadcast, we need this national system. And it was down. And I must say that the providers were pretty good. They let us know straight away and said, if you're a customer of ours, you're likely to find that you're having problems today. Pretty quick off the mark and good for them. But it just shows how we can get all hooked up on the power of computers. We pay for our coffee bills now, or at least I don't, because I don't understand the damn thing. But I see people in front of me holding up their phone, very clumsily. Somebody actually holds another machine which seems to like it, and they talk to one another, and it pays for their coffee. I personally prefer the swipe, although the heart is always in my mouth to see whether, in fact, there is enough money in that particular card to pay the coffee bill. Oh, well, living on the edge, wonderful stuff. But it does show the dependence that we have on computers. I'm reminded that in the 1980s, Harland and Wolff, and I often say to people now, Harland and Wolff, does it mean anything to you? And they look blankly until I say Titanic. And they say, oh, yes. But Harland and Wolff, who built the Titanic, went out of the shipbuilding industry along with most others in Britain quite early on in the 1970s, the 1980s. People could build ships cheaper, whether better or not is an open question, but the market went elsewhere. Harland and Wolff went into a couple of things. First of all, if you get off an aeroplane and you walk along a corridor joined to the terminal, that's known as an air bridge, and they designed and built the first air bridges. So when you get off a plane, think of it this way, you're perhaps stepping onto something that was built by the builders of the Titanic. Does that fill you with hope of doing it? No, they are a very good company, and indeed they designed the first ones, and now of course they're copied and built by all sorts of people, but you just might well be stepping onto a piece of equipment, an air bridge that was built by Harland and Wolff. Why am I rabbiting on about this? Well, Harland and Wolff also decided to develop their IT department, and they put into charge a very, very bright young man. And he felt that it would be important for us to know where computers were going. So a bunch of journalists were invited to lunch, and he gave a little chat. He gave a decent lunch too, a glass of wine or two. And he explained that we would all be walking around with a mainframe computer in our pocket, which was astonishing at the time because mainframe computers normally took up a huge room, just one. So if you had 3 mainframe computers, you had to have 3 huge rooms in which to nestle these things. So the story was very interesting, and although at the time I couldn't quite visualize it because I thought that a mainframe computer should look like a cube of sugar, and how would that actually, how could we use that if we got it in our pocket? Of course, I'm using one today and you use one all the time. It's the iPhone or the smartphone or whatever you want to call it. That's how far computers have come over 20 years or so, and that quite remarkable evolution, so that we're doing things today which we would never have dreamed about even 10 years ago. However, the big problem is that we've come to rely upon them and not master them. So computers do their thing, and if we aren't ready for a little glitch or something to go wrong, then there are problems, as experienced by TSB, for instance. Suddenly you can't get your money. Suddenly you can't speak unless you actually rush and find a point of contact for your phone. The whole idea of computers assisting mankind seems to have taken a turn for the worse. Now what we do is rely upon them, and for excuses too. You can speak to somebody, well, eventually, if you can get through, press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4, to the bank or whatever, and complain about something, and they'll say quite openly, the computer does that, and we have no right to override the computer. Who does is somewhere lost in the mists of their structure, their corporate structure, and that really isn't good enough. And I think that corporate UK, global corporate world has got to look at the use of the computers. Let's use them, of course. It'd be nonsense to be Luddite and say go back. Let's use them, but let's use them so that they haven't taken over all human activity, so that when something goes amiss and the computer can't handle it, or the human being can't override it to put it right, is that we're not in dreadful trouble. If you think that yesterday, G4 or 4G, rather 3G weren't available. They'd broken down. We were a nation without being able to talk to one another almost. So that's the sort of power that I think that we've got to limit. Right. Watch out for a visit today from a cabinet minister to your region, because the Prime Minister has decreed that ministers will go out to try and sell her Brexit plan. It's in dreadful trouble, and once again, as I've said, I'm not commenting on Brexit. It is here. My only worry, my only fear, my only comment really is that going to a second referendum would undermine democracy. I agree with the Archbishop of York on that. And other than that, get on with it, fight it. It doesn't matter what I believe or don't believe, except to say that I've worked in the EU, I've worked for the EU, and if you haven't done that, be careful what you wish for. I've heard all these things about how good it is for us, Europe. Well, they understand patronage with a great big P, and they understand corruption with a great big C. The trouble is that so do we, so we've matched it. But don't think that all those things are going to disappear because we come out, or that they're going to be removed if we stay in. So if you're thinking on a personal level, be very careful. Now, back to the weather, because we really are going to be hit by a band of snow. This morning is pretty gale-like if you go outside. Be careful. I wear my cap, this cap, instead of my trilby, if I think that the trilby is in danger of being blown away, because I had two, and one was lying under the railway line on the underground a couple of months ago, because as the train swept in, the wind tunnel flowed, my trilby was lifted off my head and dumped under the rail, and I was not brave enough to go and get it, believe me. It stayed there. I did check the other day, and it's gone, so I assume that either it blew further down the tunnel or some brave worker went and got it. And God bless them, it's not a bad trilby. Wear it in health. But it is very windy this morning, and that's bound to cause some chaos across the country, and particularly across the southeast. So do check with your travel arrangements. So far, the trains are on time. But that is going to be followed by sleet, snow, and freezing, and there we are. That's the goods train going through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 tankers this morning, and one sort of open coal type carriage. The noise has gone. They are very noisy, those goods trains, but it's good to see a goods train now and again. At least it's not all passenger trains, but bring back steam, that's what I say. Let's go back to the days when you were treated like a customer. You're treated like a passenger, not a client with an on-board supervisor saying, I've declassified first class because this train is so full. How many times have you heard that in a day? What's the point? And they say that they can't afford to buy more carriages, bigger trains or more trains. And Chris Grayling in the government says, that's okay, chaps, don't worry about it. Pat. Well, the Transport Committee sure got off after him the other morning, and they're very upset that he's taking his eye off the ball and not seeing that the chaos that is the nation's railways is his responsibility. The buck stops here, Mr. Grayling. It doesn't matter who may be at fault down the line, the buck stops here. It's your problem. You're the Minister of Transport. You accepted the job. Better do it before the whole thing goes sour. Anyway, I was talking about the weather, and we're going to be in the grip next week of an icy band of weather, so we have to watch out for that. Snow all over the place and ice all over the place. How far south it will reach, not 100% sure, but the weather forecasting is never a certainty. It could all turn away and go somewhere else. What the heck. Anyway, almost near the end of the time, so what I'm really going to end up with is East Sussex County Council have decided that some of their committees will not be webcast, right? In other words, take it off television. And Their argument is that it would restrict open debate. Oh, now I've heard it all. I mean, where do politicians come from? They don't live in our world at all, do they? It might restrict debate. Yeah. Has anybody tapped into Prime Minister's Question Time at the House of Commons, which is on terrestrial TV as well as on iPhones and all the rest of it? I don't see any restriction of debate there at all. I mean, the lower we get in the echelons is the less capable we have people. And incidentally, I understand that although the council, and I'm beginning to have some slight respect for politicians, except don't let the executive bully you, is apparently the politicians were ready to carry on with it. It was the executive that persuaded them they shouldn't. But then, it's the executive at both levels, all levels. It's town, district, county, and then of course we start going up. They're the people that really want to hide, because at the moment they are the people that are seriously into chaos. The politicians are twisting around their little finger, and they've always done that, so we come to expect it. But executives are locking the doors. They don't tell us anything, and then they blame their communication system. Ever tried to phone Lewes District Council? Well, you'll be lucky if you get through to Lewes. Probably get through to Eastbourne. But then there'll be no sense whatsoever given to you about anything that you want to know. And then it'll cut off in the middle, and you have to go through it again. It'll take hours. I mean, I think actually people can make a career of trying to get hold of Lewes District Council on the phone. All right, that's enough. It's Friday. I'm off to London to meet up with some delightful people from Saudi Arabia and from Nigeria, and then later on to meet some top legal officials. Not officials, they're solicitors, lawyers and judges. And on a Friday, I'm always... They let me into the sacred circle as being the one non-legal man amongst them, because some of the rubbish that I come out with gives them a good excuse to put me right and to send me packing with a smile on their faces on a Friday afternoon. So until Monday, toodle pip.